There was a bit of conflict, I would have thought, going on at home, because your father used to refer to you, I think, as the good time girl because of your predilection for being in the pantomimes at the Cork Theatre, which rather sadly burned down, I think, while you were there, didn't you?
It did. It burned down when I was in the middle of rehearsing. It is now, Cork Opera House now is quite a different building from scratch. I think there's just one wall of the original there.
But it sounds a bit like a bit of a domestic conflict. I mean, there's your mum making your costumes for you,
That's right.
And your dad saying, no daughter of mine's going to be an actress.
No daughter of mine shall be an airy, fairy, good-for-nothing actress over my dead body.
He was a dentist.
He was the dentist, and he wanted me to be a dentist.
Quite an important dentist, actually, because when I checked it out, I checked out the name Scher, and as soon as you do that on Google, up come names of all sorts of dentists.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he was presumably a very good dentist, and
yes.
rather proud of his. And
yes.
even brought round dentists as potential suitors for you. At your young age, the door would open, dentists would come in.
Absolutely. To our mutual embarrassment, Laurie.
Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, Dad, I call myself a disciplinarian, but he really was, with a capital D. I think he had a very successful practice, and he was a brilliant dentist. And I think he would have loved if all 4 girls...
Married
dentists, yes. I think that would have been, you know, his idea of heaven.
But so you move, and you're very, very sad. Did your mum want to move? Did your mother?
No.
She didn't want to move.
No.
So you move to Hove, and you get there, and then there's a little thing here, because I can remember talking to, I think it was something that Susan Tully said once about one of the things that you'd said to her, you know, about improvisation. You'd said, now imagine the worst thing that, think of the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and she said something about having the time she had her head cut open, that if I put that question to you, the worst thing that ever happened to you, up near the top of the list would probably be what happened a year after you arrived in Hove, wouldn't it? Because that was when your mother...
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, Mum was lovely, and when she left home, that was a year, that's right, a year into Hove, yes, that's right, and she left home, and I remember I was at the grammar school, and I said to Miss Brown, excuse me please, the teacher, could I go home because I have a feeling something's wrong. And it was just a feeling, I didn't know. Yes, it was. And there was the inevitable note on the table. And I contacted Dad straight away.
Have some water.
Thank you.
Because that must have been I mean, the shocking. You must, from everything you've said, the way you've talked, you were close to your mother, and suddenly she's
gone. I'm in a strange country.
Yes.
A strange country.
Well, yeah,
Hove was strange territory to begin with, but, you know, like everything else, it gets better.
But I don't want to, I mean, I really don't want to go into too many details about your personal life, but, I mean, have you worked out why she went? The only reference I've ever seen is when you said that perhaps your dad was a bit tricky, rather tricky. Which sounds a bit of a mild way of putting it.
My relationship with Dad was very difficult. But when Mum left, it got even more difficult because I looked like her, and also he called me a good time girl for wanting to go to the clubs in Brighton, and he must have been, you know, bringing up 4 children on his own. But I found her. I found my mother.
How did you find her?
I must have made a few calls, and we met at Victoria Station, and we bypassed each other first, and then I went back and I said, Mum, and she said, Anna. And she had a child who's my brother, Danny, who is lovely, such an, and I was only talking to him on the phone this morning actually. He's a lovely person. Mum subsequently died, but that was that, and my father evermore called it the family tragedy.
What did your mum say when she met you after all that time then?
Well, she was very, she said, you know, there hasn't been a single day she hasn't thought about
Had she
us.
wanted you to find her again?
I think so, yes, yes. And then my other sisters came to meet her.
What about later on? Because I mean, did your dad reconcile? Because you, in a way, wanted to be an actress, and I get the feeling that you went into teaching. That was almost going along the part. I mean, he would be pleased that you went into teaching.
Definitely, and I mean, he was right about that, because you know, acting, it's so difficult to get work, as everybody knows, whereas teaching is a much more secure profession. And I loved teaching when I did it, so I have a lot to thank him for.
But then, in a way, because you start teaching in school, and then, of course, you start your lunchtime club for acting, so in a way, you're cheating a little bit. I mean, you are, I know, I mean, you're working hard, you're teaching, but you're acting, your love of acting is finding expression, isn't it, in this little club?
Yes.
It just takes off. I mean, we're used to hearing stories about how things suddenly become enormously successful, but this was quite extraordinary the way it took off, wasn't it? Tell me about the numbers, the sheer numbers of people who began to come along.
The first day, 70 turned up, about approximately 70, including Pauline Quirk and Linda Robson, and it was heaving, absolutely bursting at the seams. And that's when I knew I fell into improvisation just like that, because a vast number of children, and also many of them were non-readers. So improvisation, it was natural.
I read somewhere that as it progressed, because then you got some premises, when you got the somebody talked about the fact that you had like 1,000 pupils with 5,000 on the waiting list.
That's right, yes.
Was that true?
Yes. Yes.
Extraordinary. And you also, because this is the first building, I mean, because you got your own building, didn't you?
Yes.
And
Barnsby Road.
That's right. But not only are you teaching these enormous numbers, goodness knows how hard you're working, you're practically in charge of the whole building, the maintenance of the building. I think you've also, in the penthouse part of the building, you've got a sort of community room, so all sorts of people who are in the area have got nowhere to go. I mean, perhaps, you know, people who are down on their luck, unemployed, whatever, could go in there.
There was a green room, actually, in the basement.
Oh, in the basement, okay,
yes.
Green room there. You're running the entire thing. I mean, how much sleep were you getting?
Oh, well, I was okay for sleep. I like sleep. But also Charles Verrill, my husband, he was, you know, he was there taking huge responsibility as well.
Had you met him then? I don't know how. I never know how you met him.
We met. I think the year before I started it in '68, so I think we met in 1967.
So he didn't know what he was letting himself in for. But you were working so hard, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
And not many people helping you. Your husband helping you, but not many other people helping you.
We had a small team there that were in the office.
I'm going to throw a phrase at you which you used. I think you talked about going... Do you remember that little reference you made from dames to drains?
Oh, yes.
Tell me what you meant by that.
Yes, now what do I mean by that?
I always assumed you meant that you were dealing with fine actors or something during the day, and then in the evening you have to go and fix the drains.
That's right. I think that's what it was, from Danes to drains.
Oh, Danes, or
yes,
Danes?
Yes, like the Danish...
Hamlet.
Yes,
Danes,
Hamlet,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Danes to drains. And then, of course, we know what happened. We don't... I mean, this is a very unhappy period of your life when, in fact, you became depressed, generated depression, and that went on for a couple of years. And I don't want to talk about that sad that sad period, because I know that must have been a very difficult period for you. You described yourself as feeling like a block of cement, and you, a great communicator, suddenly seeing friends in a supermarket and being almost unable to speak to them and realising that something was wrong. I only want to ask you, what in a way, how did you bring yourself back out of that? Do you remember how you brought yourself out of it, or was it just simply time passed and somehow you return? Because you're such a lively, vital person. I think people watching you now would think of it difficult to imagine you being depressed.
Well, one thing, which is one of my sayings of Anna, was I believe in routine without rot. So I set myself up a little routine that was manageable. I'm a great believer in 5 easy pieces, and I had sort of little routines for myself, structures, and that slowly I found the way. Inch by inch, life's a cinch, yard by yard, it's very hard. So I found manageable routines brought me back to myself again.
You, in a way, it was a case of self-therapy then, though it wasn't some great psychoanalyst came along or some magical pills came along. You took charge of yourself.
I did, but I did have the help of others as well.
Then we come to the moment that people who know something about you remember very well. Of course, then you come out of that depression. You're well again, ready to go back to work, because the work's gone.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.